Welcome to Containerized Conversations. I'm your co-host, Jesse Cafarelli, and with me
is your other co-host, Josh Warhurst.
And this is a section we call
Microservice Minutes.
Microservice Minutes. So this is a very special section of our Containerized Conversations, Microservice Minute, where we try to contain it to a quick bite about news or anything exciting. You might see an episode on it that expands the concept a little bit later, but, as news moves fast, you got to strike while the iron's hot. Am I right?
Yeah. And it is very hot right now in New England, and
yeah, that is for sure.
The iron is very hot at 101 degrees yesterday.
Yep. Now in the hot news section for today, if you look on the internet, it said ChatGPT is going to melt your brain. And that's what all the news articles will have you believe.
I do think that this is actually a timely news article because there isn't that much studying how, you can say that it's clickbaity because one, it includes the word ChatGPT, and two, it's clickbaity because it's a little bit provocative with its title, but I think it's actually also very timely, right? It's asking the question, how do people's brains react when using ChatGPT versus doing it by its own?
I want to jump into the hot articles that are all over the internet that are telling you your brain's going to melt by using ChatGPT. They will have you believe that that is what this new MIT study has shown, that if you use ChatGPT, your brain will melt. And I actually love a lot of these articles because they ignore a lot of the details that are actually in that white paper.
Of course they did. They want to prove that it's already rotted the brain of their audience, and they won't even bother to look at the original article.
Yeah. But yeah, and then, as you said, the research paper actually has a lot more nuance to it. It actually shows you how your brain works with ChatGPT.
And it's kind of limited, like a lot of good science. It's very limited in its scope. It's actually talking specifically about essay writing. Now we can go and take that and expand it to, hey, how does ChatGPT or any other AI model work towards your coding ability or other tasks that are maybe honestly less cognitively intensive? They had three groups. They had the groups that did it all manually. Yeah. They had the groups that used the internet to help them. And then they had the groups that used the LLM model to help them.
There's some quick sections I actually want to refer to in the research study that I found fascinating. So there's a whole lead up to this on how they measured the brain waves of the participants that were doing this study. And what they did was they actually were able to measure the direction that the data was being inputted into their brain. The back of the brain is for memory recall. And then as you get more forward in the brain, that's more like ingesting data. It's coming into your brain versus out. What I found really fascinating for the one extreme group that was using ChatGPT to create these essays out straight, they actually found with all of the sessions, their frontal lobes were highlighted the most. And all of that frontal lobe activity was then working its way backwards. So what they found was that those people were filtering out data from ChatGPT. They weren't actually creating any original content, versus the other extreme, the people who were actually writing, there was no frontal lobe activity. It was all from the back forward showing original work. But then you skip later on to this research paper where then they told the non-ChatGPT users that they could use ChatGPT to rewrite the essays. And then they told the ChatGPT users to rewrite the essays. The ChatGPT users couldn't rewrite the essays to save their lives. And they actually found that the group was getting lazier and lazier as the sessions were going, to the point where they actually were worse at writing at the end of this study than when they first started. Versus the other two groups, especially the middle group, they were actually a lot more effective at writing essays by using ChatGPT at the end. And they were able to execute on writing the essay way better.
And this was over the course of 4 months. So it's not necessarily super long term, but it's long term enough that they are seeing patterns that have emerged over that time period. And I think there will be people who talk about, hey, that's not long enough. But listen, there's a lot of times when people use bleeding edge technology, and like this is such a general population use.
Yeah, people are going to use it. But I think what's really important in the nuance that I think is missed in all of these captured articles is that what they found was using ChatGPT was super effective for learning for the people who created their work originally first and then used ChatGPT afterwards.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
And that's the nuance miss that we really should be highlighting is how to use ChatGPT. Because there was also another section in the article, in the research paper, where they found the ChatGPT users were actually dissatisfied with their work. And they actually were kind of depressed about submitting this work. People who wrote the papers themselves had somewhat satisfaction over it, but they felt like it could be better. The middle group who used Google, not only did they like their essays, but they also had a lot of great pride in it. Yeah.
I'll say the other thing that doesn't really come up in these articles, and I guess it's my final takeaway, is that at the end of the day, they talk about offloading, knowledge during writing essays, right? This is all about essay writing. And that people who are using ChatGPT are doing it differently than people who are doing it using their brain and all this other kind of stuff, right?
Yeah.
But there is a sort of fundamental question hidden behind all of this, which is, should we be spending time on these activities? You can say, hey, people are using less of their brain. They're writing, things that they're less proud of. But is the act of essay writing something that we still need to be doing? I think that's where this kind of activity is a little bit different than code writing, because you might say, you know what? The job of code writing is not writing brilliant code, it's writing code that works.
Yeah.
And if the LLM is actually giving you code that works and succeeds in what you want to do, then why spend your brain thinking about that when you could be thinking about bigger questions like, what's the architecture of my system? Reserve your brain use for the things that matter, right?
Yeah. I think that is a great question that I think we can answer on a longer episode.
Let's do a deep dive.
So please join us in the future where we deep dive into that question. Is it even useful to use ChatGPT? Will it melt your brain? Or can it make you a better tech? Thank you for joining us on our Containerized Conversation Microservice Minute.